Hope everything's going well for you this week. This is the 522 form video for the last full week of March 2014. And so welcome, glad you're here. Wanted to mention to you attendance from this past week, 53 in small groups. Now keep in mind, 6 of my family were not there, and so that gets you up to 59. So that gets us close to our 60 number, but we want to get bumping back up into that 60 number. We're thankful for what we do have. We want to continue to develop it, so please be making some contacts. Don't forget to send some text, Facebook notes, phone call, whatever it is that you use, however you can connect with your groups. Make sure that you do that this week and encourage folks to be there. A great way to do that is to give a little preview of what the study is going to be. Instead of just sending, hey, this is Josh, I really want to see you in group this week, which you may have already sent multiple times. What if you said, hey guys, look up Colossians chapter 3, verses 3 through 4, or better yet, you just put the text of the verse in there and say, hey, we're going to be thinking about that this Sunday. That's a great way to make a contact in a way that's, I don't know, a little different. Maybe pique people's interest a little more. So keep making those contacts. Want to remind you of the 522 basics. We're not going to go through them in detail. I just want to remind you of what they are. Number one, our ministry care list. Very important that we're regularly contacting folks and talking about who our prospects are, talking about who we're missing, thinking about how we can care for folks who are there. So that ministry care list is so important. Number two, developing group structure. Number three, fellowships and ministry projects. Number four, group sessions, what actually happens on Sunday morning. Number five, making regular contact with your group outside of group time. So those are the 5 basics. And we just want to remind you that they're there. Keep them in mind. Now, what that has to do with today specifically is I want to talk to you a little bit about time. We all have the same amount of time. The reality is when it comes to 522 groups, we all have a very limited amount of time to devote to 522 groups. It's just the reality. We all have to eat. We all have to sleep. We all have to get ready in the mornings. We all have to spend some time at work. We all have family to take care of and to look after. We have people to visit with. We have errands to run. We have bills to pay. We've got all sorts of things that occupy our time, and many of those are things we can't just drop. And so the reality is, for you and for me, we all have just a limited amount of time each week to devote to the development of our 522 group. And so if that's the case, we want to make sure we spend that precious time as carefully as possible. I want to give you a tool that's very simple. It'll make total sense to you, but I think it's very helpful for life in general, as well as what we're talking about here with 522. I want to show you something. There's a fellow named Stephen Covey who many years ago wrote a book called 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Maybe you've heard of it. It was an industry standard in the world of business for a number of years and still very helpful. And in one of those chapters, and I've read this, he talks about time management and a time management matrix that he created. So a matrix just meaning there's some quadrants here. And across the top, he labeled it in terms of urgency. You have the urgent and the not urgent. Then you have along this side that which is important, not important. So you can see that quadrant number 1 is that which is important and urgent. Number 2 is that which is important but not urgent. And you can see number 3, not important but urgent. And then number 4, neither important nor urgent. I think you can see the 2 things across the bottom. We'd like to spend as little time there as we possibly can. We really do not want to be messing with anything that's not important, right, in our limited time, whether it's urgent or not urgent. Now you get up here to 1 and 2, we spend a lot of time in number 1 very often. For example, preparing your group session study for Sunday. That is both urgent and important. It's got to be done this week, and it's got to be ready, and it's an important thing to have. It's an important aspect of what we do with 522 groups. Okay? Now, what I want you to think about is over here at number 2, and Covey says that the more time that we can spend in quadrant 2, the more effective as a human being that we're going to be. This, of course, applies to all of life, not just 522 groups, but to apply it specifically to 522 groups. If we're spending more time in quadrant 2, we are going to be, for example, trying to develop more leaders by building group structure, while having a group greeter is not necessarily urgent. It's definitely important. Studying your lesson is both urgent and important, but you could spend some quadrant 2 time on that. What if you did some long-range planning for where you want to go with your small group study? It would make you more effective. It would make sure you're getting a larger breadth of the Bible, and it would cut out the possibility of coming to a point where you say, oh boy, what am I going to teach on Sunday? And it avoids you thinking that on Saturday. So you kind of get the point. We can do this with every step of the 522 basics. And so that's what I want us to think about for the forum this week. So this is a shorter video, but I'm hoping it's going to be long on discussion. And the question is this: what is one great need in your group right now that you could spend some quadrant 2 time on? In other words, what is one thing inside your group that's important? It's going to fall under one of these basics that needs to be worked on, but it's not really urgent. Covey suggests that the more time that we spend in quadrant 2, the less time we'll be spending in quadrant 1. And what he means is that quadrant 1, in addition to weekly activities have to be done, often include emergencies and things that are broken, not working right, things that capture our attention and force us to react. The more we spend time in quadrant 2, we spend more time being proactive and less time being reactive. And that makes us more effective people. The more we're proactive and work ahead on the things that are not urgent, the more we destroy things falling into the urgent category. And they're well taken care of, and they're better prepared, and they're more effective, and we save time in the process. So I want you to share in your mind, what is something that is in our group that is important but not necessarily urgent that we need to develop? It may be part of your group structure. Maybe it's making a plan for fellowships. Maybe it's something to do with your group session. I don't know. Maybe it's something to do with one of the other basics. We want to get you going on this. Both group leaders and associate leaders, please feel free to chime in. Thank y'all.